Hello and welcome to the Law Podcast, brought to you by the University of Stirling Law Society. I am your host, Jedd France. Today I am joined by Zoe Workman to discuss the disability services offered by the University of Stirling and how best to seek support should you need it. So hello Zoe, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for your invite.
Oh no, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I was actually really glad when you reached out and messaged me, because I always had a back feeling that you were going to be interested in coming on. I just knew from the mental wellbeing event, I thought Zoe would be a good guest to have on, and the subject that you've chose to come on and speak about is something which I think needs to be spoken about, and I think it can be very beneficial for both current students and future students, maybe more for future students who are coming in and are kind of trying to find their feet and are looking for some help. So I think this is a very important subject. But just to provide a bit of background, could you just introduce yourself briefly for everyone listening?
Yeah, so I'm Zoe. I am doing law, so this is now my fourth year, and I am nearly finished university at Stirling. So I'm hoping to give some insights, some things that I've done wrong, some things that I would do differently when it came to help that the university offered for disabilities. So hopefully people will get something out of this.
Well, hopefully, I think that's the aim. Hopefully, it'll be very beneficial for people who, like I say, are current students and future students. So just to kind of wind it back a bit, when you were applying to the uni, were you aware of any of the sort of disability services which were on offer, or did you have to kind of find your feet as you went along?
I've known since I was younger that I was dyslexic, and I've known that there has been services out there very much from school age. So I knew that there would be services, I knew that there would be help. I wasn't sure what that form of help would take. Unfortunately, I did go to school a good couple of years ago. So when I was at school, my exams was extra time, but it was actually a separate room with a reader and a scribe. So that obviously isn't available for all students, and it can't be done now. But technology has actually overtaken that need anyway. So I needed to find out what technology had to offer that wouldn't have been around when I was at school, and how things were kind of done nowadays in education. And I wasn't aware of how that was done.
So when you first came into university, did you apply for any of the services that the university offer?
So when I applied for university, I'm sure there's a box that you can tick to say that you can identify yourself as somebody who has a disability. So the university are aware that you're coming. Now that's all well and good, but you will still need to find your own way. Don't wait for student services to reach out to you. Very much get on the forward foot and contact student services, which is what I did from the July of starting in the September. I was contacting student services to let them know that I was coming, to send them what you call a report. So it's done by an educational psychologist, and so it's evidence. So I have an educational psychologist report, other people will have something different. So I needed to provide that evidence to the university, and I just wasn't sure who to give it to. So I did try and get in contact with the university from the July to kind of let them know that I was coming, let them know that I had told them I was coming, and where to send this information and how to go about start getting help.
And when you, like you said, you sent that application off in kind of July time before the academic year started. When you sent that off, did you find that the university were helpful in that regard?
No, I really struggled to get somebody to help. So student services are so busy when you join university, and I needed to get allocated a sort of student services rep, somebody who dealt with disabilities, that would then do a report that goes to SAS. That looks for money and things like that. So it wasn't the guys that are actually in student services, it was somebody else who works for them that would do that. And that's who I needed to get in touch with. And I actually really struggled to get in touch with them. And that wasn't until my first semester was over that I finally managed to get in touch with them. So I certainly would recommend you are forthcoming and trying to get that help from student services.
Yeah, so it's very much kind of get on the front foot early. Don't kind of wait about. If you feel like you're going to need extra help, then definitely seek it. And I would say probably make sure you're being very forceful, because your needs are of utmost importance. So if you're needing extra help, then make sure you're doing everything you can to get it, and just really push them for it, because like you said, that they're very busy, so you might need to send follow-up emails, follow-up phone calls. Just make sure if you're needing extra help that you really do push it and push for it. So like you said, you applied in July, so would you recommend that everyone applies early and doesn't wait until they start on their course?
Yeah, that would be my first piece of advice, to be honest. Don't wait until you start your course. Get in contact with student services. Let them know you're coming. See if you can get an appointment with the guys. Now, student services do work over the summer. They don't only work in the September, from the September. So if you can get an appointment then that is brilliant. You're ready for starting in the academic year. So that would really be my first bit of advice, is get in there from the July, August, and see if you can get an appointment.
Yep, I would agree. Now, I can imagine there will be instances where people are maybe dyslexic, or they have some form of disability, but they've not been diagnosed, and they're not sure if they are disabled or have some form of disability or not. So is there any advice you would give for someone who maybe starts their course, is maybe a bit wary in their head that maybe they are dyslexic or something similar, and they haven't disclosed it? But then they're struggling with their degree. Is there any advice you would give to them on how to kind of rectify that and seek help, even though you haven't disclosed it at the start?
Yeah, I would kind of say it's never too late to ask for help. Whether you're coming from school, or you're a mature student, or that you've just always had a wee bit of an issue with something, get in contact with student services and just let them know. Get in contact with your personal tutor and just say, look, I'm struggling with this. I'm actually struggling to read the amount of content. I'm struggling to focus, anything like that. Disability does bring in mental health as well. So you can obviously never have had a mental health problem, and you can start having issues when you start uni. Uni is a huge jump for people, especially from school. So it could be that the school has been providing that help, and you haven't actually been aware that they've been making that change for you. And then when you get into university, don't underestimate, when you go to university, you're very, very much an adult now, and you need to be pushing to get stuff. Don't expect people to come to you to offer you help. Go and ask for it. And you don't need to let anybody else know. You don't need to let your classmates know or whatever. Just a quick email to student services, or turn up and say, look, I'm struggling. I realise that maybe I did something different at school, or they did something different for me, but actually you guys don't do that. So there's maybe a disability there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like you say, it is a big jump if you're going from high school to university. I think regardless of when you're starting university, it's a big thing in your life, and it brings a lot of stress, a lot of responsibility, and it's a big kind of adaptation period in your life. So if you do make that jump and you're starting your course and you're in the first few months, or indeed even if you're still in your second or third year, if you're kind of halfway through and you're struggling, there will be services out there. And like Zoe said, you are an adult. If you go, even if you're at 17, when you go to university, you will be treated as an adult, which comes with its benefits and also its downsides. Just depends on which way you look at it. But if you feel like you need help, definitely don't be scared to ask for it, because there will be services out there which are available. And again, like Zoe said, it's all anonymous. You don't have to feel like everyone's going to find out. You can just send your own email, get your own appointment, make a phone call. No one has to know other than the people that you choose to inform that you're seeking help. So let's say someone is in a situation where they have been offered assistance, but they've turned it down. They think, I think I'll be all right. But then they get a few months in and it turns out they do want that help. Is it okay to go back and ask after they've applied?
Absolutely, yeah. I have to say that when I started university and now 4 years later, every year I come up against a new challenge. And I certainly went into disability services in the first year, coming from college, and saying to them, no, that's fine. Read and write will be fine as long as I have somebody reading out the text. That's absolutely fine. That's all I need. And some yellow paper and some ink, which dyslexic students find that coloured paper does help. So SAS does give me a budget for that. So I was very much trying to be independent. I had been on my own for a long time, and I didn't want that much help. I kind of felt that I didn't want to spend somebody else's money, and I was absolutely fine. But every year, that jump in education, the level of reading, the amount of reading, the volume of text, the more intricate the language, the more you had to write, I have found that I've needed that little bit more help. So I will, now all I do is actually email Jackie, who's in student services, the disability part of student services, and say to her, I think last year I said to her, I'm really struggling with reading the volume of text. There's just so much text this year. It's honours year. Is there anything that can help me read it out to me? So I was offered a pen, which I just put over the text and it just reads out to me. And that was, by that time now, third year. So, and this year, because I'm now doing my dissertation, I've now asked for Dragon software, which is dictation, because I find that the amount of things that I need to think about. So if I'm trying to think of something and write it down, I lose my train of thought. Now, before that wasn't really a problem because I was only talking about maybe 3,000 words. So I would just write it down. But now you're talking about your dissertation. You're constantly taking information in about your dissertation. So I suddenly thought, nope, I need something else now to supplement all the other stuff that I've got. Can I now have Dragon software? Now, this was offered to me in first year and I turned it down. I didn't need it at the time, and that probably either was or wasn't the right decision. So this year, I just applied for it again, and then I'll get funding for Dragon software because my needs have changed, and your needs will change throughout your years at university.
And just on a personal note, how have you found writing your dissertation?
I've only just sort of started it. I'm actually really quite enjoying my dissertation because it's something that I wanted to do, something that I wanted to research. I do find it quite difficult to go and find text for an essay when it's not something that I'm particularly interested in. So the dissertation, I think, is going to be slightly easier, but again, it's so much text, it's so much reading, and it's trying to remember what I've read and where I've read it, because people will send me stuff because they know that's my dissertation, that's what I'm doing, or it's a current law event, so I'll get emails just generally from the Law Society, and I'm thinking I need to remember that, I need to remember where I read it. So if I get stuff like Dragon software and stuff like that, then I'll be able to even do a wee dictation note, and change the way that I'm doing things. And then technology changes as well. Technology is fantastic. It's always doing something else. When I was at school, Dragon software was only just starting out, and you had to teach it how to write and type. And I couldn't be bothered with that. So I never used it. And now you've got Siri and stuff like that, and it's normal to use things like Siri. We're used to using it in our everyday life. So if you ask for something like Dragon and somebody else sees you using it, it's not going to be, people aren't going to go, oh, they must have a disability. It'll be like, oh, they're just talking to Siri, or, it's something that normal people normally do now. So it's so used to people using it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to picture in my head that, if I was somewhere and I seen someone, like you say, using Dragon software, my head wouldn't jump to them having some form of disability. I would just think maybe that's the way they absorb information. Maybe that's the way they learn. Maybe that's their personal preference. So I think that's great. Like you say, the kind of advancement of technology over the past however many years has been great. And like you say, there's plenty of softwares and services out there for people that need it. Now, if we have a hypothetical situation where someone is, they're doing their essays or they're doing their exams, say they're in their first year, and it all goes wrong, is there anything they can do to rectify that? Is there any advice you would give to someone in that situation?
Yeah, if it all goes wrong, if you haven't handed in an essay, you haven't done particularly well in your exam, now obviously it would need to be something that was either disability related, mental health related. As soon as you come out that exam, email student services, email your personal tutor, and let them know. You need to let somebody know that something's gone wrong. I was in an exam in my second year, had so much going on at home, had an absolute panic attack in in an exam, and left as soon as I could. And I emailed student services. I let them know. They already knew that I had anxiety, and I just appealed the exam grade. And I got to be able to resit that exam because of that reason. Now, I'm not saying that you will definitely get to resit the exam, but you must let somebody know, and give yourself a chance of being able to resit it and let them know. Or even they might put extenuating circumstances in, so when it's graded, that's taken into account, and you might not even need to resit it.
Yeah, and I think that's fair because anything can happen in the run up to an exam. I mean, you could literally be in a very good mental place, everything's going well, and you're, the weeks leading up to your exam, but something dreadful could happen, and you're going to go into that exam in a completely different mindset and be completely unable to focus and kind of recall that knowledge that you've taught yourself through the weeks of studying. So, like you say, if you're in that situation, then don't just assume that that's you. There's no way out of it. If that happens, by all means, contact student services, make them aware of the situation. And like Zoe says, it could turn around and, you could get that chance to reset or appeal the decision or appeal the mark, or there's a bunch of different things that can happen. So if you find yourself in that situation, don't just assume that's your fate and you have to live with it. We all go through different stuff, and the support is out there should you need it. So, Zoe, at the end of this podcast, is there any advice that you want to kind of stress to people who are perhaps coming in to university with a disability such as dyslexia and who are not sure of the support they should seek or what they have to do in order to gain this support? Is there anything that you want to kind of just drill home to those people to ensure that they do these things?
Yeah, I'd kind of like to just highlight some of the help that is out there. I mean, I sat and took a note of everything, and I was actually surprised when I sort of threw everything down on a bit of paper, how much is actually out there that can support students.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've written down the fact that you get extra time. Most people know about that, but extra time, a different room, not in the main room. And I can't stress enough how many times I've seen students that I do law with who didn't even realise that I wasn't in the main exam room. They're not looking for you. So please don't feel that, by having a different room that, people will make judgments on you, and you'll actually be surprised how many people are actually in that other room with technology and computers and things like that. So you don't need to write it. You can get a room, maybe just one-on-one with you on your own, and you'd obviously need to have an examiner or whatever with you, or there's a room where there's maybe only just about 10 people for different reasons. They get extra time, and it is all for different reasons. I've put down here about paper and ink, which I sort of covered before, about the fact that I get budget consumables for yellow paper and ink, which can actually be quite expensive. There's technology that you can apply for computers, laptops, different programs, Read and Write Gold, Dragon, which are covered, scanners which can help you scan text in so it can be read to you, study tutors who are amazing. You can also apply to have somebody help you even just once a week, twice a week, or every 2 weeks. They would get in touch with you and help you with things like essay skills. Proofreaders, they're available for many different reasons, not only dyslexia. Mental health tutors, same as studies tutors. Uncapping, so if you have had an issue with an essay or you haven't handed an essay in, when you do your second go, you will automatically get capped, but you can appeal that and get it uncapped for your second submitting. Resets, appeals, as I said, contact student services. The student union for appeals are amazing. They can really help. And another software that I've only just found, actually, and it's an app on my phone. It's not even something that I have had to ask student services for, is a software app called Otter, and I put it on next to the tutor as they're talking, and it actually writes down verbatim what they're saying, and I then use that to make my notes. Now, I've handed that on to a few people in my class that I know aren't dyslexic, but to have that detail in some notes is amazing. And that's just an app on my Apple. I would imagine you'll get it on Google as well. That just simply writes down what they are saying.
Perfect. I think that's amazing, Zoe, to be honest. I think we've covered a lot of ground. I think we've covered an important topic, and like I said at the start, I really do hope this can help both current and future students if they're struggling and need that support, and hopefully brings their attention to the services available to them, at least for the University of Stirling. Obviously, we can't speak for other universities out there, but if you're coming to the University of Stirling or you're thinking about coming, these are the services which are available, and by all means, please do not be scared to seek this help and make the university aware that you are going to need that extra bit of assistance. So yes, that wraps us up, Zoe. Thank you very much for coming on. Best of luck with your dissertation, and I hope to see you on Friday at the Christmas social.
No bother, thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to another episode of our podcast. If you like what you hear, please follow us on your podcast platform of choice to ensure that you never miss an upload. To keep up to date with us, you can follow our Instagram page, which is Stir Law Society. Additionally, our Twitter is @_Stir Law Society. In the meantime, it's goodbye from me, and I'll speak to you again very soon.